Seeing features from older generations and references that mention the regions we've gone through in the past and even grew up with can be a fun little surprise to see when talking to an NPC, or something that lets us go through a full-blown remade event of a past generation, like they put 2 regions in one game and then revamped it and let us buy it again. They don't have that last one in Sword and Shield, but there are many things from the old games that have brought us joy that can be seen again in both the Isle of Armor expansion and the entirety of Sword and Shield. And with the excitement of things like past Pokémon returning, I thought it'd be a fun time to take a look at the times in Sword and Shield when we got a returning feature or references to those previous times. Welcome to the 10 times Sword and Shield decided to put or mention something from an old game into this game. Number 10. Sometimes a reference can just be a little detail. Short and sweet, something that when you see it may not ring a bell in your mind at first until someone points it out to you. This is one of those kinds of references, as when you first visit the city of Wyndon in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you'll come across a huge plaza that has statues of Corviknight's evolution line and where NPCs and Pokemon gather. Among those Pokemon, there's a Galarian Mr. Mime tap dancing and a kid watching it. When you speak to the kid, he'll inform you that the Mr. Mime's name is Marcel. Just a tap dancing Mr. Mime named Marcel, living its dream entertaining a kid. As it turns out, the name Marcel is actually a throwback to Pokemon Red and Blue, where an NPC on Route 2 will trade you a Mr. Mime that's named Marcel for an Abra. It's a cool little subtle throwback to Kanto, but a fun little detail that the developers remembered and chose to put in as an interaction in the game and see who could remember that almost 25-year-old in-game trade. Number 9. Where is a place you would least expect to see a reference? A cafe maybe? Well, probably not, because most of the cafes near me have a bunch of references to other countries around the world. But even in the Galar region, the battle cafes work just like that as well, as you can earn items that are nods to other regions in the Pokemon world after defeating the cafe master in a Pokemon battle. The consumable items you can earn are Rage Candy Bars from Johto, Lava Cookies from Hoenn, Old Gâteaux from Sinnoh, Castelia Cones from Unova, Lumio Skelettes and Chalor Sablés from Kalos, and Big Malasadas and Pewter Crunchies from Alola. Technically that's 8 references, so we're almost done with this video, but it's cool to know that this region has many delicacies from each generation and that the locals don't have to travel to a different region to try these out. As another little reference, after being the cafe master, he will compare your battle to drinks from the Alolan Pokemon Center cafes, such as Tapu Koko, Roserade Tea, and Komala Coffee. Altogether that's about 10 references, so I think that's the end of the video. Okay, not actually, but Tapu Koko, huh? Number 8. Sword and Shield's Isle of Armor expansion also contains a few references, and we decided to put them all in this video in different spots as well, and have the most popular and well-known returning reference here first. The Isle of Armor's most popular and memorable feature that was brought back is from Johto, where you can now create your own special Pokeballs using the returning Apricorns one more time. It was an exciting thing to see returning from its debut in Generation 2, as the many memories of plucking specific ones off trees and bringing them to our old pal Kurt so we can turn them into their respective specialized Pokeballs was a fun thing to see brought back. Unfortunately, Kurt's job was replaced by a machine, but these Apricorns can still bring you great balls. Those two, but also heavy balls, with a greater chance for heavier Pokemon, lure balls, for easier to catch Pokemon that you fished up, the friend ball, which doesn't actually work on Hop's Pokemon so we know how that relationship is going, and all the ones you were able to get from Kurt in Azalea Town. Would have been nice to see Kurt back as well, but the way you now use Apricorns in the Isle of Armor is by bringing them to the Cramomatic located in the dojo and be able to get just about any Pokeball from it. Apricorns are the main returning features in the DLC, as the specific balls for each color of Apricorn were already in the game, since Ball Guy would give you some during the gym challenge and as a reward from him after each time the player wins a Champion Cup. There is one ball here that isn't a specific Apricorn ball from Kurt. The Sport Ball is now obtainable from the machine, that even references Johto in its description, stating it's a special Pokeball that was used during the bug catching contest in the Johto region. All around one big reminder of Generation 2 that Game Freak decided to bring back so we wouldn't have to let go of those times. Number 7. There have been rumors for a while that Sinnoh is going to be remade for the Switch, as Kanto was remade for the Game Boy Advance, Johto for the Nintendo DS, and Hoenn for the Nintendo 3DS. Let's just forget Let's Go to fit the narrative. The time feels right enough to make a bunch of forum leak posts as a few years have passed, and every remake does come out after a new region has been introduced on a new console. As for Sword and Shield, one thing that has been taken by fans as a little hint that also references Sinnoh is in Postwick, your hometown, where if you go into Hop's room, you'll be able to find the room decorated with posters of Pokémon, trainers, and the gym challenges. But next to his TV, there's a statue that might toggle some flashbacks. If you remember, in Sinnoh's Pastoria City, the Pokemart has a little statue of Krogunk, who's the city's mascot. A similar statue to this can be found right there in Hop's room. Usually just having statues or posters of Pokemon are only references to the Pokemon themselves, however this statue is the exact same clay-like figure as the statue in the Pokemart. And you might not even know it's Krogunk upon looking at it if you haven't seen the original statue, which makes it feel more like a reference to the city itself rather than just to Krogunk. Also looks more like Krogunk on the DS than in higher quality on the Switch. Number 6. Culture is something that is taken into account when creating each region for the Pokemon games. The developers try to create a world that has depth and feels connected to the rest of the Pokemon main games. Usually they take inspiration from a country or part of the world that each region will be based on, like the big sports event culture from the United Kingdom as the huge fan base for the Gym Challenge and Team Yell and Galar. The Sword and Shield games gives us a little hint to the fact that some cultures can be similar and draw parallels between Kanto and Galar. On Modestoke, there's an NPC walking around that tells you that curry is also popular in Kanto, which another backpacker NPC from Kanto, located in Sirchester, also confirms, as she's enjoying the different toppings on all the curries from the Galar region. This isn't the only thing that apparently Galarians and Kantonians share, as an NPC from Wyndon tells you that both of the region's habitants like to wait in lines, which is the most random thing to find out about two groups of people. Who is even creating this fact, by the way? Who's releasing this researched info and talking to people from Kanto and Galar, and probably the rest of the region to fill out questionnaires on whether they like to wait in line? Is there someone asking every region to participate in a study about waiting in line and how much they like it? And do they even give them a callback, or do they just make them wait to be accepted and say that was the whole study? Who even likes to wait in line? Do these guys just go to an amusement park, stand in line to get on a ride, and when they're at the front they look around and go, well that was great, time to leave? Apparently those are all facts that I believe, so Generation 8 and 1 have that in common. Number 5. Another DLC Isle of Armor reference comes your way as we look into the Diglett scavenger hunt most of you are probably acquainted with by now. When you arrive at the Isle of Armor and try to cross the bridge to go to the dojo, an Alolan Diglett will pop up and prompt a cutscene with a trainer that has lost his 151 Digletts around the Isle. The 151 is a pretty straightforward reference to the original 151 Pokemon introduced in Pokemon Red and Blue. No surprise there, as that's a pretty obvious one, but definitely needed to be included when looking at a list of references. The person leading you on the hunt for his Alolan Diglett, however, is also a character coming straight from Alola, which is a nice Generation 7 callback, and even prompts you to ask the question of whether this Diglett is from Alola. The Traveling Man also rewards you for finding his lost Diglett with many different Pokemon who are all either Alolan variants of Pokemon or the starters from Sun and Moon, besides that one Slowpoke. You do also get yourself an Alolan Diglett for finding all of them, which actually has perfect IVs. Maybe we'll see him again in the next generation of games, now losing 100 Galarian Stunfisk as a reference to Johto's number of Pokemon, and will give you all the Galarian variants from the Sword and Shield games. And a perfect IV Galarian Stunfisk, because what we all want is a perfect IV Galarian Stunfisk. Number 4. As we know the Galar region is based on the United Kingdom, it's speculated that Galar is set to be neighboring the Kalos region, as Kalos is based off France, which would mirror the layout of our IRL world. There isn't much more proof to support this claim, but the Sword and Shield games gives us a little more information with a swimmer located on Route 9 that tells us that there are swimming experts that can go from Galar to Kalos just by swimming. That seems to be referring to the English Channel that separates the United Kingdom from France, and the fact that there are some people who have swam from one country to the other across the channel. The swimmer seems to imply that there's a similar body of water that separates both regions, and that a select group of swimmers are able to take on the 34-kilometer, 21 miles, to 240 kilometers, 150 miles, challenge. This is a nice little mention of Kalos and might lead to some more well-made Pokemon world maps or crossovers between the two regions, but for now, it's just a small reference to Generation 6 from an NPC. Number 3. Kabu. He actually is a reference. Kabu, Modestoke's gym leader, is one of the most enigmatic characters of the Sword and Shield games. He is actually the only gym leader of the region that is not native to Galar and has come there from far away. The back of Kabu's league card tells us that he's originally from Hoenn and that he was close to becoming the champion, but he always lost at the last minute. After being confirmed to be from Hoenn, fans have speculated that Kabu could be, in fact, Flannery's grandfather, since she tells the players during the Pokémon World Tournament that her grandfather used to be a member of the Elite Four and he's a Fire-type user. There's no real evidence that supports this claim, but fans seem to be convinced that the two gym leaders are related. It's nice to see when characters, especially important main characters like gym leaders, can be references to past regions. Gyms can also bring even more nods to other regions, as there's a woman in the main road of Modestoke that informs the player that she came from Alola to watch the gym challenge. You've got a new Fire Gym Leader from Hoenn, which is the type used by the most popular gym leader in Hoenn, and a fan coming from Alola to see Kabu fight it out as well. That really makes me wonder how many characters in the large audience are actually from other regions. Number 2. The Isle of Armor gave us something we weren't expecting with Honey's character. Honey has it all. Great Pokemon, skills, has a family, might even battle harder than her husband Mustard, and even has all the watts that you kept donating to her in order to make the upgrades to her dojo. She also holds a reference to another region from the Pokemon world that we mentioned in the Easter egg video, where when you achieve the 1 million watts goal, she will call a Pokemon League that's not from Galar, asking them if the champion can come to the Isle of Armor to have an exhibition match with you. Her request was denied because Galar is too far, so she decides to battle you instead. Which region Honey called is one of the biggest mysteries in the Sword and Shield games, as there's no evidence given that points to which region she might have called. We know it isn't Kalos as it should be close by, but did she call a region we've seen in the past, or maybe she contacted a new region that we haven't heard of? Regardless, seeing her talk about other Pokemon regions and their champions is a fun surprise to see in the games, and while we don't know just which one yet, hopefully the next expansion can shed some light on this with even more references to other generations and possibly bring this back up. Number 1. The final part of this list is related to certain Gigantamax forms. The Gigantamax feature includes a few details that allude to other games from the Pokemon franchise. Our first example is Gigantamax Pikachu, taking his original and chunky design. It has been recently revealed that the only reason Pikachu was given a slimmer design was to make the anime easier to animate during battles, and that the games just copy the design to have cohesion with the franchise. But it's good to know that Game Freak haven't forgotten about the plump mascot and its sprite that we fell in love with when Generation 1 was introduced to us. Next is Gigantamax Gengar that looks like a gate to the afterlife. But where have we seen this before? Well, this form has a reference to the haunted house from the Festival Plaza in the Alola region. You're more likely to want to go into that one than Gigantamax Gengar too. Our final spot is reserved for Garbodor's Gigantamax form, as it has a toy plane in the front of its body, with a design and color set similar to Latios' white and blue. It could look to be a coincidence, however Gigantamax Garbodor's shiny form changes the colors of the plane's blue to red, making a distinct change from Latios' design to Latias' design, giving us an acknowledgement to the Hoenn region. It's just like Game Freak to make Latias hidden behind Latios in Garbodor's shiny version. Hopefully we get to see another hide-and-seek of references to other generations in new games and even the expansion, as the subtle mentions in Sword and Shield were really fun to look out for.